Hey, Bastish B here for 64K and welcome to another Commodore 64 countdown.
Welcome to 64K, hosted by Bastish B.
And welcome back. So on today's episode we're going to have a look at my top 5 favorite scrolling beat 'em ups on the Commodore 64. And you're probably wondering why I only recommend 5 instead of the usual 10 or 20. The simple fact is that the C64 only has 5 that I can honestly recommend. There will be a few honorable mentions. The scrolling beat 'em up genre didn't really come into effect as a game form until the late 80s to early 90s, so the Commodore 64 was almost getting ready to wind down at that point, so that's why the genre is not massive on this system. There are a lot of examples of really bad ones, but we're only going to show the best here. So let's not waste any more time and get on with this countdown.
Number 5.
Kung Fu Master was released in 1985 by Berkeley Softworks, who also did the C64 conversion of Karate Champ to the system. It's based on RM's Kung Fu Master arcade game, the original scrolling beat 'em up designed by the master of the Slapfest himself, Takashi Nishiyama, who went on to create Street Fighter and the King of Fighter series for Capcom and SNK respectively. The C64 version is an early release, so visually it's more chunky than it should be, but they really managed to nail that atmosphere and gameplay very well, making it remind you of the arcade Big Brother immediately. As Thomas, you have to save your girlfriend Sylvia from the dodgy Mr. X, who has a 5-level tower, like Bruce Lee's Game of Death, that you have to fight your way up to rescue Sylvia. Each level throws hordes of henchmen at you to slap down, with new enemy types added each level, with more traps in action. Each level is also topped off with a unique boss character that has their own special weakness you have to find and defeat. The graphics are pretty chunky as I mentioned, but still represent the arcade fairly well, with some nice satisfying sound effects and a pretty good rendition of the arcade's mindless but addictive main tune. And if you're finding the game a little bit too difficult on the first level, you can always use the C64's hidden cheat and pull out your gun and cap a bunch of dudes. It's very satisfying. Next up is Bop and Rumble, published by Melbourne House in 1987 and developed by Beam Software. This game takes its multiple name cues from the triple name Data East arcade games from back then, and it's also known and published as Street Hassle and Bad Street Brawler. I simply know it as Bop and Rumble. You play Underwear Man, a macho boxer who's simply trying to go home after a training session, but everyone on the streets is getting in your way, so you decide to slap everything up. The game has 9 stages set in the city of Melbourne, Australia, all done in a very tongue-in-cheek manner. You have a host of cool moves from chest butts, roundhouse kicks, punches, and pretty unique to this game is every level gives you a new special move, from grinding someone's ears to death or throwing them across the screen. It's damn fun and never gets old. My favorite part of this game is its complete disregard for political correctness. You slap up everyone regardless. Old ladies, blind people, random gorillas, and even midgets, you name it, and they catch a big old slap, with each level having some different new characters or a mix to keep things interesting. The moves list is very easy to pull off with a little practice, and the graphics are big and pixely, but everything is animated so well that it adds to the cartoon vibe, with awesome sound effects and an addictive soundtrack by the Sid Master himself, Neil Brennan, of Samurai Warrior and Exploding Fist fame, a funnel classic that never gets old.
Number 3.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the arcade game, as it's known in the US, or Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles, the coin-op in Europe, hit the Commodore 64 in 1991 and is based on Konami's 1989 side-scrolling Turtles tie-in arcade game that was one of the most popular games in the arcades during the early 90s. The C64 version was ported by Probe and released first in the US and then in Europe, published by Imageworks. It's a surprisingly cool conversion of the scrolling beat-em-up classic that I played a ton with my bootleg copy back in 1991. You get to choose one of the 4 turtles and head off to rescue April, who's been kidnapped, and take out the rogues gallery of bad guy staples such as Bebop, Rocksteady, Krang, Shredder, and more, each being the final boss of a stage, which there are 10 of in total. Most of the gameplay is of the scrolling slap-up variety, with the addition of the hoverboard style sequences as well. Gameplay is well implemented, as is the enemy strength, meaning almost all the arcade moves are letting you be pretty diverse in the action, with enemies who die with just a couple of hits buttons, just like the arcade, to keep things moving at a fast pace. Unlike lots of C64 scrolling beat-em-ups, gameplay is pretty fair. Master the flying kick and lunging stabs and you'll be an absolute killing machine, with the bosses being the big variations on the action. Graphically, it's very good, having a bunch of arcade style splash presentation with very good in-game graphics with all the arcade's levels, and a really nice diverse set of enemies to take out. Sound effects are very effective, with Jerome Tell providing a lot of very addictive toe-tapping tunes as well. The attention to detail in the overall production is really commendable considering the C64's limits. I only wish it had a 2-player co-op mode, but even without it, it's still a fantastic beat 'em up on the old breadbox.
Number 2.
Double Dragon 2 The Revenge hit the C64 in 1989, published by Virgin Mastertronic and developed by Binary Design, the same team who made the absolutely god-awful original Double Dragon conversion to the C64. But damn did they make up for that horrid garbage and deliver one of the C64's best games in the genre. It's based on Techno's second Double Dragon arcade game released back in 1988. You have to set out on a revenge fest as either Billy or Jimmy, or both, as this version supports simultaneous 2-player action, which is awesome, as you try to murder everyone that killed your beloved girlfriend Marion. The game managed to get the flavor of the arcade down really well, with a lot of enemy variety, and the stages are good conversions of the arcade themes. Not only can you slap everyone up, but you can also pick up boxes and lob them, and use a nice variety of weapons, unlike the first Double Dragon game on the C64. There are a few weapons missing from the arcade, but it's still fun and provides some nice variety. Pulling off moves is very easy and features all the arcade staples of punches, kicks, elbows, and flying kicks. Enemies have reasonable health bars, so things move along at a brisk pace, although some of the larger bosses can get a little bit ridiculous with their stamina. There's some nice backdrops, and the characters are large and very well animated with satisfying sound effects, unlike the original C64 version. Dave Lowe provides a bunch of excellent SID tracks as well that play with the sound effects, making everything feel that much closer to the arcade experience. This is a very good scrolling beat 'em up that's easily the best Double Dragon game on the C64. So let's just stop this countdown for a few minutes and check out a few honorable mentions. And here's 3 quick recommendations that I'm sure many people would have had in their top 5 instead, so I'll give my reasoning, but these are still good additions to the genre. First is Renegade, based on another Technos arcade game. It's not entirely a scrolling beat 'em up, as each area is more like a large arena where you move all over and beat the hell out of 80s punks. It's enjoyable once you get to grips with the unorthodox control scheme. The computer follow-up sequel is next, called Target Renegade, a very slick looking and sounding 88 release by Imagine. It's a quality product that is simply way too difficult and lacks enemy variety. And my pet peeve is regular thugs are way too strong, making killing even the most mundane henchmen feel like fighting a boss character, which gets annoying real fast. If you got the patience of a saint, go for it. And lastly is Dragon Ninja, based on another triple-named Dead East arcade game, also coded by Dave Collier of Target Renegade and published by Imagine. It's also another very slick-looking and sounding version of the platform-scrolling beat-em-up, but it's simply way too difficult for its own good, which really spoils the overall enjoyment of this game. Still, if you're a fan of the genre and are a complete masochist, these games will be right up your alley.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
And now on over to the number 1 game.
And number 1 is...
The Simpsons, published by Konami in 1991, based on another one of their insanely popular arcade games that was every bit as addictive as the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I got this game in 1992, which was one of the last packs of bootleg discs I got from Europe on my C64, and I'd already bought a Mega Drive, so my C64 8-bit gaming time was kind of winding down. This game though was a real slap in the face at how good simple 8-bit games could still be, and being one of only two formats this was actually converted to back then. The plot has you choosing one of the Simpsons, Marge, Homer, Bart or Lisa, and going on a rescue mission to rescue Maggie who's being kidnapped. It's basically a weak excuse to run around Springfield and beat the hell out of every character from the show. Not only does this game manage to capture the Simpsons TV show well, but more importantly showcase the arcade with some serious skill. All the levels are here, pared down a little bit in size, but everything is still intact, from the cool recognizable locations, the fact that this game supports 2-player co-op, which is really the way to play it. The amount of on-screen enemies is crazy, the inclusion of the balloon mini-games, throwable objects and cool weapons to use, big chunky boss face-offs, and all the moves mapped to a single joystick button, and everything works fantastically. This team puts so much effort into this. Little details could have easily been omitted, but they didn't. The TV show intro is here in its full glory, with a very cool Sid version of the main theme. The in-game music is also really good for all the levels, with nice sound effects on top of that. The enemy variety is also insane. There are so many different types of bad guys to pummel to death, whether playing by yourself or in the recommended co-op 2-player mode. It's a total blast. Truly not only a brilliant arcade conversion, but easily the C64's best example of a scrolling beat 'em up. And that's it for another countdown on the C64. Thanks for joining me, Bastish B at 64K. I hope you had a good time. And if you can please like and subscribe, that'll be greatly appreciated, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.